Hey everyone, welcome back to MagicLinks Tea Time. I am Brian, and we are about to get started here in just a few minutes. Give me one moment. Hello.
Hello, how's it going?
Good, how are you? Happy Friday.
Happy Friday. Happy tea time.
Yes. Oh, you know what? Shoot, I need to grab my mug. Give me 1 minute, I'll be right back. I completely forgot.
Now I need to find my filter. What are the good filters, guys? What are all the good filters that the young kids be using these days?
I like set it out and then I completely spaced. Oh my gosh. So, oh wait, how did you do that?
No problem. I know. I'm looking for a good filter. I don't know what the ooh. I'm liking this one. This one
Oh,
makes
this
me
is
look fabulous.
I'm terrified. This is like what I see when I look in the mirror. Uh, that is so funny. You know, I've never experimented with these before. This is like a whole new world.
Right? I know.
Yeah, wow. Oh, wow. They really do this to you.
Yeah.
This is hilarious. Okay, I'm just going to go back to normal. I will get carried away. So, welcome, Shannae. We're so happy to have you on.
Thanks for
I'll
having
give
me.
just a few more minutes for some more people to join.
Yeah.
In the meantime, though, wanted to just kind of walk through how we start out. So, really, of course, our time here spent is really to do the most that we can to open up doors and really just bring awareness to different points of view, really more than anything
Yeah.
else. And so, with that said, we would like to start out the session with setting our intention for our time together.
Yeah.
And so I'll go ahead and start. So my intention for today is, it's been grow week in week again. So this week it's also still to grow. Lots of growth to do.
Yeah.
Yeah.
My intention is to thrive, to keep pushing, keep thriving, and, yeah, pushing through.
Love it. Okay. Well, let's just close our eyes and set that intention and then we'll get started. All right. Well, welcome. Welcome. We are so happy to have you on today. So, Shannae, for anyone that doesn't know who you are, could you please just explain a little bit about your background and why you're joining us?
Yeah. So my name is Shannae Smith. I'm the co-founder of Kensington Grey, which is an influencer marketing agency that is rooted in diversity. We exclusively manage about 9 women of color influencers, particularly Black women. And it is an influencer agency created by an influencer. So I'm also an influencer myself, and that's sort of how I got into influencer marketing. And it sort of stemmed from a Facebook group that I started called The Glow Up, where I advise Black influencers on sort of how to get to the top of their career. And it has evolved into Kensington Grey. And so here I am today.
I love that. Yeah, it's such an interesting story. I mean, really, because you understand both sides of the business because you have, of course, a large social presence and are an influencer yourself. And then you really took that and have been able to apply those learnings in a larger capacity. So that's really interesting. I know that we had a few things that we wanted to touch on today. It feels like one thing that sort of keeps coming up in internal conversations and throughout other conversations with other tea time hosts is really having to maybe define in terms of what like partnerships and collaborations you're open to, especially in 2020, like where you sort of draw the line or if there's any sort of vetting process that you adhere to, especially now, considering that there's like a lot of vamped up interest in collaborating, particularly with influencers in the Black community, to make sure that those are legitimate and authentic connections.
Yeah. So, for myself as an influencer, as well as for the influencers on our roster and just our agency, just in general, we typically will go to their Instagram page. That's like the first and most obvious place to look, before that May 24 weekend, unfortunately, where the world witnessed George Floyd being murdered, were you posting people of color? Were you, doing things that were inclusive? And then shortly thereafter, what did you say? How did you handle the situation? Where did you just, post a black square and move on? Or did you, share, exact steps that you were going to be taking for long-term and transformative change?
Mm-hmm.
So, and then also too, like we look at the comments, we look at what people are saying, because, it's one thing for a company to put out a statement with a black square and say that they stand in solidarity or they support you or Black Lives Matter, but the comments, that's where the real tea is. So that's where you see people, holding them accountable, saying, okay, it's great that you're sharing Black Lives Matter, but I actually worked for your company, and as a Black person, I didn't feel valued. Or the word on the street is that, you are just sharing this, and, you don't have any plans to do anything. But then it also validated, companies that really are getting it right, and that really truly do have, valuable diversity and inclusion practices inside and outside of their organization, and that they really are taking steps towards change. So a lot of times, looking at the comments and just doing some deep digging, and even just, doing a quick Google search, will tell you what the real tea is. And then now we're a few months in, or a few months after what happened, that weekend, and what's been happening over time, we can see the companies who are really taking the right steps. And even in their outreach, a lot of brands in their outreach are saying, we understand if right now is not the right time for you to collaborate with brands, or if you're not taking on brand collaborations, this is what we're doing with respect to the Black Lives Matter movement. We're acknowledging that we didn't get it right before, and we're listening and learning so that we can get it right moving forward. And that's a step in the right direction. So those are the opportunities, that we take on and we're willing to take a chance on. But I think that the true test and the real time will be the true, will tell us, who's genuinely, really making steps towards change, and then who's, just genuinely being performative.
Yeah, absolutely. And I mean, that's you actually sort of answered my next question, which was really to be with those brands that has historically not done such a great job, how you approach those relationships, especially if they're trying. It's like, yes, there's room for a second chance always in life, but really, being able to put your money and your action where your mouth is so important right now. Let's talk a little bit more about your roster. So how many talents do you currently manage?
So we have about 9 women that we manage.
Okay. Yeah. So they're all women of color.
They're all women of color. So they're all Black women. We have an interracial couple, the Angelinos, that are based in Palm Springs, California. So Ariana, she is Black, and then her partner Hannah is white. But apart from that, everyone on our roster is Black. We also have a Latina woman that we work with as well. But we're constantly growing and expanding our niche and our focus and our specialty. Just given that the agency was co-founded by a Black woman, is Black women of color, but we are open to definitely expanding into other areas. But this is our niche that we're focusing on, and that we've made some really great strides in that area. Yeah, no, I mean, and that's incredible. I really love to hear that, because there's power in numbers, and I love that you are carving out a voice for your own peer group. So I'm wondering, in terms of like the experience as a Black female content creator, how would you say, in terms of when you've been approached by brands personally, and then now that you have an agency and are representing other talents, do you what are your like top level bullet points of things that you notice that are unique to your experience that we could take to our industry and sort of greatly apply to all of the Black creators that we work with? In terms of like what I notice, like the good things, or like tips that. Yeah, I would say things that you think are relevant and unique. Like, I'm sure that you're getting approached by brands all day long,
and I'm sure some are kind of missing the mark and some are doing a great job. You sort of alluded to that already.
Yeah.
So I'm curious, we work with thousands of influencers and so many brands as well. And so most of the time, we're the bridge builder between brands and influencers. So it's important that we are aware during those conversations that we're working in the right direction, and that our language and how we come across is empowering and effective.
Yeah. So I think it's, well, for one, making sure that you're not engaging in tokenism. A great example of tokenism, because I know MagicLinks, they do definitely do a lot of like beauty collaborations and things like that. There are some brands that don't have like a full and diverse spectrum of beauty products for all skin tones, yet they're reaching out to Black women wanting them to be on these beauty campaigns. But then when we do a little bit of research and we see sorry, I'm hearing a little bit of feedback. Do you hear that feedback too?
Is it like a little, I wonder if it's my phone. Is that better?
Yes, no, I still hear it. Okay, so it's not really bothering me, but I'm not sure if other people can hear it too. So chime in the comments if you guys can hear
Yeah,
it.
sorry guys. Let us know.
No problem.
Yeah.
Just making sure that the products that they offer really like speak to the Black experience and actually are inclusive of all people of color, and that they're not throwing a bunch of Black people on the campaign to make it look like they're diverse, when in fact they truly there clearly weren't any people of color or Black people involved in the decision-making process in terms of like the products that are available in terms of what was involved in like on the back end in terms of bringing the product to life. So
got it.
I don't hear the feedback anymore to see that.
Yeah, okay, I raised my phone up. I'm not sure if it might have been me. Sorry about that.
No problem.
Yeah, so that's interesting. How about, like, I know it's just such an interesting thing, and I know that when we chatted before this tea time, we were also talking about the tokenism at large, just in terms of reaching out to Black voices. And it's kind of like, we having feedback and conversations on topics that aren't just about because you're Black. And that being such a thing right now, I think like was for me very eye-opening. And in fact, it was from our conversation, I took that to a potential panel that I may be speaking on, and I brought that up in terms of like something to really be mindful of. Could you share a little bit more about what your thoughts are in terms of that, and what you've been asked to speak on, and sort of where you see your value? Yeah,
so first and foremost, like, Black people are experts on more than just diversity. I happen to be a Black woman. I can speak to the Black experience, but I'm actually an expert in negotiation, in pricing, in new business development, in sales, in pitching. There's just so many things that that make me special and unique and have made me successful as an entrepreneur, as a businesswoman, and as an influencer. And I'm also Black. And I mean, not to make light of that. Like, I'm Black and I'm very, very proud to be a Black woman. However, I just don't, I've been seeing the trend of businesses and organizations and panels, talking about inclusion and diversity. And then, Black people are the experts in that matter, but it also perpetuates this notion that it's our job to teach you how to get it right, when really it's actually your job to do the education and to inform yourself so that you can get it right. It's almost, kind of perpetuates white supremacy in some ways, getting Black people to serve you and to teach you on, what it is that you've done wrong, and, how you can, do better. Really, that's your job. That's your job to figure it out. A lot of us are happy to help, and I'm definitely happy, to help in many ways, to move the needle forward. But I want to be looked at as an expert on more than just diversity, not just like a Black person telling people, not to be racist. Like, I am an expert in so many other areas.
Right. And that's an important learning, right? I think like that, honestly, Shannae, it was your conversation that really opened my eyes up to that as well, in terms of like, I mean, this whole journey for me has personally opened my eyes up to things where I've been sort of like low key racist. Honestly, it's kind of like I started out this whole tea time thing really wanting to learn, and then it turned into this way bigger conversation where it was after that feedback from you that I realized, like, you know, it's important to talk about Black issues, yes, but also you are an individual mind that has so much more to offer outside of just the conversation about racism and diversity. Like, there's so much more. So thank you for that. Personally, I can really say that opened my eyes up and was a learning that I brought into all of the tea times that I've hosted since our first chat about a month ago.
That's
Uh,
awesome.
yeah. So, you know, and then again, I relayed that feedback again to another panel that's talking to tons of industry professionals. It's one of the largest panels in our industry. So hopefully, you know, that sort of feedback makes waves. I think it's incredibly important to realize where, you know, where the conversation starts and ends, and
Yeah.
why people are brought in. So, you know, on that note, I would like to sort of let's pivot away from it, because I'm curious just about your overall experience. We are currently building out at MagicLinks a program of resources to help influencers, particularly like micro influencers, sort of get a head start and realize, you know, like early learnings of how they can really best leverage themselves as a business person to kickstart their career. For you, I guess looking a few years back or wherever you started to really pick up momentum in your career, what would that advice look like to somebody who's just starting out?
Yeah. So, um, I would say from the beginning, first of all, don't do it for the money. Do it to create content to inspire people. But once you know you're at a stage in your career where you are getting the attention from brands, one, have a media kit,
Mm-hmm.
and know how to and know understand what your elevator pitch is. You know, be able to explain what you do and who you are in, like, you know, one, you know, short sentence, and what your differentiating factors are. I would say to create a network. So if you find other influencers that you know and that you trust, that you can like share information with, you can bounce ideas off of, that you can, you know, just sort of like have conversations that with them about the industry that, you know, people outside of the industry don't really understand. You'll learn so much from that. What I did was I created the Glow Up, which is a Facebook group for Black influencers, for us to, you know, a safe space for us to just speak openly and freely about everything that's going on in the industry,
Mm-hmm.
from something as simple as how to find a photographer, to how to get into an event, to how do I charge, how do I negotiate, what is
Yeah.
exclusivity, what's usage. So these are the kinds of conversations that, you know, you want to have with people within your industry. But yeah, have a media kit, understand how to pitch yourself, and make sure you know that it's professional, and like whatever media kit that you have, it paints a great picture, a full picture of you, and makes it easy for whoever you send it to sell you internally,
Mm-hmm.
without having to do much else. And then also too, the power of a newsletter. A lot of people actually don't do this. So we have a
Mm-hmm.
newsletter. Um, Kensington Grey, our agency, we have a newsletter. But you know, as an influencer, you're a business, and your Rolodex must be extensive with all the brands that reach out to you for gifting, for opportunities, for whatever. Create a newsletter specifically for industry stakeholders that you can send them and give them updates on what's going on in your life. You're pregnant, you're moving, you want to do more beauty, you want to do, you know, more hair care stuff. Send out, like, you know, an update that includes, you know, my engagement rate this month, you know, was, you know,
Mm.
50% higher than it was last month. You know, I've grown, you know, 5,000 followers since the last, you know, over the last quarter. Here's, you know, a snippet of some of my recent travels. Here's a highlight of some of like my most recent sponsored posts and how they did. This post went viral last month. This post, you know, was reposted on, you know, in this media outlet. I was
Mm-hmm.
featured in these articles. Share that with the people in the industry, and maybe do it quarterly, or, you know, bi-monthly, or whatever frequency makes sense to you, so that the people in the industry, you're top of mind for them. So like when an opportunity comes down the pipe for, say, IKEA, they'll be like, oh my gosh, Shanae's moving next month, I just saw it in her newsletter, let's reach out to her for that. So that's, don't just sit there and wait for brands to come to
Mm-hmm.
you.
Mm-hmm.
Make it easy for them, because one thing I will say now that I'm on the agency side, we are busy.
Yeah.
Like 12, 18-hour days are the norm. Reaching out to dozens of influencers and responding to literally hundreds of emails in a day is normal. So if you're not top of mind, you will easily fall through the cracks and then just end up like not, being put forward. And it's not because anybody's excluding you. It's because we're busy. So we're just going to, oftentimes we're going to take what's in front of us. We do our research, but we'll also take, what's in front of us and what's been presented
Mm-hmm.
to us most recently.
That's fantastic feedback. Really, I mean, and really everything that you're describing is, again, taken from the influencer point of view, that you have to really consider this a business for yourself and be an advocate for yourself, because and I think like the biggest takeaway from that is have a proactive strategy about your growth versus a reactive strategy.
Yes.
Brands will always be in your DMs asking you if you want to get gifted or do a sponsorship. Like, that happens, but I love the proactive strategy. It actually is very reminiscent of what we do on the brand side when we're reaching out to brands. It's exactly that. It's just that at a micro level for yourself as an individual. And that's what we do when we're pitching to a large brand and we're saying, hey, this influencer did this, we did this is trending here. It's exactly what you just said. So
Yeah.
super professional advice. Like, that is incredible. Now, I guess, so more to that point, because that, I think for some people, maybe, especially starting out, that feels like a lot of work, or maybe they're a little afraid because that's something that they're not skilled in, or they don't know really how to be their best advocate. So what would you say is kind of like the first easy, like, like if you had to kind of break it down as like the first step in the right direction, what would that be? If maybe a newsletter is a little daunting, what would you say for people who are really just getting started and are trying to just like scramble?
So if a newsletter is a little bit daunting, I'm old school.
Mm-hmm.
And so my background is in advertising sales, and that's how I sort of got into like
Mm-hmm.
the field of sales. I pick up the phone and I call people.
Mm.
People aren't expecting it because
Yeah.
like everyone emails. So I will send an email and then I'll just pick up the phone and be like, hi, this is Shannae from Kensington Grey. Or I'll be like, hi, this is Shannae, Toronto Shay. I just wanted to make sure that you got my media kit that I just sent you. I saw that you're working on a campaign for IKEA. I'm, doing some renovations. I'm, redoing, my closet. So there's a lot of, ways that I can organically incorporate the brand into the stuff I'm already sharing. So just wanted to give you a heads up. Let me know if you have any questions. That's something that's like really memorable. So picking up the phone, that's also scary too.
Mm-hmm.
Practice with your friends or practice in the mirror a few times. I definitely had to do that. I was scared. I practiced, when I first got into sales, picking up the phone and cold calling people was a bit scary, but it was very effective.
Mm-hmm.
You can get through calling people, I found, faster than you can emailing. And then another way too is tagging brands in photos, DMing them. I got a campaign with a travel company with a luggage brand, actually Away Luggage.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
But I actually bought the luggage and loved it, like personally. And, I did a post and like included them in the post. And I sent a direct message to the brand saying, hey, I absolutely love your luggage. Like, if could you give me the contact person of the person who handles influencer marketing collaborations? I would love to work with you guys. And they responded via DM saying, yeah, the person is XYZ at away.com. So, and then I just basically continued the conversation on email. So DMing is also an effective way of communication. Oftentimes the person who runs the social media page of the brand is, works closely with whomever is doing like the influencer marketing as well. If it's not the same person, sometimes it is the same person. I think that some brands, a lot of brands do respond to the DMs with that information. Some don't, but use LinkedIn to find people, to find, the right contact to reach out to. But truly, the best bet is creating compelling thumbstoppable, savable, and shareable content, that's the best way to get at the attention of brands. And then you can also do the legwork on top of that by doing outreach.
Yeah, you know what? Like I can say right now, if I can truly say in full confidence that any brand that would receive a phone call from an influencer would be like totally shook. Like they would not even know what to do with themselves. Seriously, right? Because it's like I think on the other side, you always feel like you're on the chasing the tails of the talent. And so if you received a proactive phone call, like that makes an impact. That sets you apart light years ahead of everyone else, because it's their job to be finding all of these people to put in these campaigns. But if you go out and really advocate for yourself, whoa. And I can say on our end too, really, we do so much volume in terms of campaigns. The people that send us media kits and really are professional, to us, it's just it leaves an impact like instantly. I can think of one girl right now, Daquana White. We wanted to work with her on a sponsorship for MagicLinks to promote our services. She sent us a media kit. It was like, boom. I knew what she expected. It was so professional, and she, like it was just easy. And it cuts a lot of time. You're busy. You said you have hundreds of emails. Going back and forth with someone just to negotiate a rate takes a long time. So if you can really set expectations early, that's important. In terms of expectations, let's talk about gifted product. And I think there's a lot that I'm seeing spinning on the internet right now in terms of gifted product and who accepts gifted product. Is there a racial disparity between who accepts gifted product and who, like, what rates influencers take depending on like what the brand gives them? I'm seeing a lot of that. What's your insight on that topic?
Yeah. So, yes, I have no. So previous to running an agency, I worked for a media conglomerate, and we also worked frequently with influencers. And I did notice that there was racial disparities in who negotiated, who didn't negotiate, who just sort of accepted rates, who would refuse gifting and accept gifting. That's changed. So it's been a few years that I've been out of the game, and also too since then I've been a huge advocate of knowing your worth and asking for what your value, etc. So what I was noticing, truthfully, is that women first were less likely to try to negotiate versus men. And then women of color were less likely to negotiate versus women of color. And when they shared their rates, they were oftentimes a lot lower than non-women of color. That is changing though, big time, especially I would like to say, and I'm not trying to take credit, but with the group that I've started, I've just really let people know that oftentimes, as a woman of color on a campaign, you are the MVP of that campaign, because there are a million girls with blonde hair and blue eyes and beach waves. But there aren't, a million Black girls with beautiful brown skin and braids, or a flowing afro and and a curvy body. So those aren't a dime a dozen in the industry. So when a brand is reaching out to you, it's not like they have 10 other influencers that they can, put in your place if you say no. So you do have the bargaining power. And because of that, I've spent a lot of time just educating influencers on what they should be charging, and to stick to their guns. In terms of gifting, I always ask if there is opportunity to be paid. And the way that I look at gifting is this: if a brand is offering you product and it makes sense for the content that you create. So say that you're a beauty influencer and they're gifting you the beauty products. You know what? Okay, that's great. I'll accept the gifting. But I always, include a disclaimer that, I can't guarantee that I'm going to be posting it. If I do post it, I definitely will tag you. But I can't be subject to any like timelines or deadlines or anything like that. I'll get to it when it makes sense for the content that I'm sharing, etc. If you want to put parameters in place and like deadlines on when I can share and what I can share, etc., then we need to have like a rate in place. And yeah, so that's sort of like my position on gifting. And I do think that when you're first starting out in the industry and you want to like build, you know, relationships and you want to sort of build your content, etc., there's
Mhm.
nothing wrong with accepting gifting at all. And at any point in time, you know, you're in control. You can say to a brand, if that is constantly coming to you for gifting, like, you know what, I'm not actually accepting any gifting anymore. You know, thanks so much for the offer, but I would like to politely decline, or I would be happy to accept the gifting, but I just can't guarantee that I'll be sharing anything. And if sharing is a requirement, then I'll have to politely decline.
Got it. Yeah, that's a super interesting thing for us. We're like in the midst of trying to figure out a better strategy for gifting. So that's very insightful. At the MagicLinks team that's viewing, please take note because we were trying to figure that piece out. I know on our side, we do see the same thing in terms of there being a little bit of a difference there in terms of rates negotiated. And it's something that we're trying to build resources for to make it, you know, we're in a tricky place sometimes because we are all about getting the most bang for our budget. That's like what we have to do. And then on
Yeah.
the same side, though, it's kind of like that. I don't want that to ever fall into we're paying white influencers more than our black influencers because they didn't negotiate for themselves
Yeah.
at a rate that they probably could have gotten.
Yeah.
So it's challenging, and we're trying to really help build out those resources just because, you know, our goal is to have diversity across all of our campaigns, not to set people up to be worth less. That's horrible.
Yeah. And
Yeah.
in terms of just a quick note on pricing, so I have a few rules of thumb with respect to pricing. And obviously, everything, first of all, is negotiable. Everyone's budget is different. Every client's budget is different, but I have a few general rules. So when it comes to Instagram, I go by the 4% rule. So this assumes you have good engagement. So good engagement, meaning your engagement is like 4% or higher.
Mm-hmm.
You can ask for 4% of your Instagram following for an Instagram post. So if you have 100,000 followers, you can ask for $4,000 for an Instagram post. You could ask for half of that if for stories. So $4,000 for an Instagram post if you have 100,000 followers, $2,000 for a story series if you have 100,000 followers. And then you negotiate from there. So that's what you ask for. So they may have that budget, and then you don't have to negotiate further from there. But if they don't have that budget and they say, you know, that's over our budget, then you negotiate from there. And then when it comes to YouTube, I start with $100 CPM. Video content is expensive to produce. It can be costly. So start with $100 CPM. So what I mean by that is $100 per 1,000 views. Now you find out what your average views are by looking at, say, your videos from the past 30 days or 60 days or 90 days, whatever makes more sense for you. And you find out what the average views were for your videos over that time. Say that you're averaging 100,000 views over the last 30 or 60 days and it's $100 CPM, then you can charge $10,000 for an integration. And then there are other things, and that's what you can ask for. So you negotiate down or up from there, depending on what their budget is, depending if they want exclusivity, depending on, you know, what the minimum amount of time is that they want you to speak about the products for. There's a number of factors that go into it. It's not a hard and fast rule or black and white, but those are the general rules that, you know, we sort of work off of at our agency. And it's something that it's not a secret or anything like that. We're very open about it. And that's just how we work, and it's done very well for us and our influencers. And again, this runs with the assumption that you're creating quality, best-in-class content, because the influencers that we work with, they all do that. You have great engagement. All of our influencers have great engagement. And if you tick those boxes, then you can command those types of rates.
Yeah, absolutely. And I mean, from our perspective, we price a little bit differently because we have all of the sales data from the transactions that happen with MagicLinks. So for everyone, like FYI to influencers that are partnered with us, when we're looking at rates, we really are first looking at what's going on with your linking activity. And you have access to that information when you sign up with MagicLinks. And we tell managers and agencies all day long, go into your talents influencer accounts with MagicLinks and see what they're converting, because if there's negotiation power in that too. If you're seeing that you are converting for a particular SKU for like anywhere above 1%, that's really strong. And you have a lot more negotiating power with the brand when they approach you, because you have sales data, which is way more valuable than even social following or engagement. You can
Yeah.
really put the hard numbers there and see, I have converted for your brand and for brands within your competitive set historically, and you can command your rates from there. So that's part of what we're going to try to get across in some of those resources. Shannae, this has been such a great series. We're a little over time, so I'll wrap it up. I guess one last thing though before we go. So I like to end with asking you, just, you gave a little bit of this earlier, but being in your position and being a businesswoman and starting your own company, what would you say would be your biggest piece of advice for somebody that would like to start their own agency?
I would say get your money right. When I started this agency, and still to this day, I had zero debt, no debt whatsoever. The only debt that I have is my mortgage. And be prepared to just work really hard, and just think to yourself, if I were an influencer, what would I look for in a manager or an agency? So and as an influencer, I would want somebody who's proactively going out there and pitching me, someone who's not afraid to negotiate on my behalf, not afraid to be the bad guy, not afraid to look out for my interests, someone who's not going to lock me in to an agreement or make me do things that I don't want to do. Those are things that we take pride in. And then just somebody that you genuinely like. And if you want to be an agent, look for people that you really genuinely are passionate about and like. Every single person on our roster, I genuinely am obsessed with them, follow them, know what's going on in their life. So it is super easy for me to pitch them to anyone, because it's like talking about one of my girlfriends and telling a brand about why they should work with one of my girlfriends. Genuinely, that's how it feels. So yeah, if you're looking to start an agency, make sure you're financially you're sound and you're together. And be prepared to work very long hours, but it will be a labor for love if you love the people that you represent. And also, don't take it personal, because there's some people who will want to sign with you, or maybe some people who might not want to sign with you, people who might sign with you and they might leave and go somewhere else that might be better fit for them. Don't take those things personal, and just work really hard, and be professional, because that's the legacy and the reputation that you're leaving within the industry.
Yeah, great advice. So thank you so much for your time. This has been seriously so amazing to connect with you. We really have a lot of, August is all about girl bosses with Tea Time. We have had some amazing ones so far. Shay, you are, of course, top of the league. In the upcoming weeks, we are actually speaking to someone who has another agency that exclusively represents women of color. And so we're excited to have that perspective from someone else, as well as talking to a content creator who ironically is in Canada.
Awesome.
And she is her content's all about being a girl boss. So we're going to bring all of that energy into this last tail end of 2020, and we can't wait for all the rest of this.
Amazing.
Yeah.
Thank you so much for having me. This was wonderful.
Yeah, and thank you for everyone who joined in and commented. Thank you for all the comments as well. We've been reading these and really appreciate it. Yeah. Thanks, everyone.
Bye.
Bye.